I'm Earl Dreeshen. I'm the Member of Parliament for Red Deer Mountain View, and I'm a Conservative from Alberta. Well, it's one of those types of things that where timing is significant. I had spent probably 30 years of my life working for people that I had wanted to get into politics, whether it was municipal or provincial or federal. And when I retired from teaching, the opportunity arose, and so all of those that I had helped over the years had said, well, hey, why don't you put your name in? And that's really what started it. My family had been involved. I mean, we had come to Alberta back in 1903, and you had to build the schools, you had to make sure there were hospitals, you had to build roads and power and natural gas and so on. So it was sort of a service to community, so it was sort of an extension of that. Well, I think the point is that you get a chance to help people. And I had a private member's bill that changed the Criminal Code of Canada. And it came from a discussion that I had had with a constituent, a young girl and her mother. She had been viciously attacked by a person that had dressed up as a police officer. And so, of course, that was the disarming factor, and she managed to escape, fortunately. But even at the end, when she had phoned her folks, and he said, "Oh, well, don't worry, I'll call the police." It was the police that did it. So having a chance to change the Criminal Code of Canada, I think that was important. And what we did is we made it an aggravating circumstance to personate a police officer, and so that gave the courts more direction when it came to sentencing. And I think when you talk about the proudest moment is that in the last 10 years, that is what I see more happening in other types of legislation when it comes to the Criminal Code of Canada. So I think that's probably, from just the straight political side of it, that's probably one of those things that I feel proudest of. Well, as I said, the motivation that I have to go to work every day is strictly service. I mean, I've done that my whole life. I was a high school math and physics teacher for 34 years. I enjoyed being in the classroom because that's where the students were. I had no interest in the management side of it because students were the important part. And I feel the same thing here. It's you see problems and issues that people have, and you bring a good team around you so that they look for solutions, and that is what is most important to me. Well, I had a lot of experience by helping former MPs and MLAs and so on, so I sort of felt like I knew what to expect. I don't think I realized just how difficult the travel was going to be because, it's basically 8 hours twice a week, to get from door to door. So that I think has probably been the hardest part. I thought that I could handle it, but other than that, I think I had a pretty good idea of what I was getting into. And again, I had a lot of great mentors, and that I think is the critical part. When you come here, you know that you're brand new. There's lots of things to learn. My staff here in Ottawa, I had the same staff as the former MP had. So, and her job was to make sure I stayed out of trouble and didn't do anything wrong, so she's managed to do that over this last 15 years. But I think that's the key thing, is just to make sure that that you look at what is happening day by day, keep your head on straight, and understand that you are here for the people that elected you. Well, I think the key aspect was with the private members bill that I spoke of before. When you're trying to get something done, it wasn't particularly difficult to get the legislation moved forward. However, there were folks that did have questions, and so we were bringing in the people from different parties to understand the motivation behind what we were doing, and I think that was critical. But I've also had a chance to go to international visits, and whether it was with Parlaméricas or Asia Pacific or the OSCE, so the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, which I've been attending. That's when you get a chance to work with other political parties, and usually for a common goal. And so that is one of those opportunities where you get to see things happening across party lines. Over the last number of years, what I have seen most is divisiveness and pitting one group against another. At the very beginning, when I first came, I knew that there was politics, and I understood that, you'd have good days and bad days, and, there's no sense getting too high and there's no sense getting too low, because, it would just be a continuum from there. But I hadn't seen, let's try to divide, because then you'll keep people off their game. And I think that's probably been the worst part, and so if it takes a lot of people to decide that they want to change that, and unfortunately with social media and people playing to social media, it just makes people feel even more isolated. The COVID, the times when people have been, locked up and things of that nature, I think that too has caused a lot of concern. As a former teacher, I know how difficult it is for students to be able to learn. We can talk about how great it is to have, self-directed learning and doing this over Zoom and so on, but there are some students where that works very well, and there's others that need the help. I always, I had lots of students that could, get amazing marks, but I always said, I probably wasn't needed much for those. It's the ones that were struggling that needed me as a teacher and somebody that was able to help them. So I think that's it. And sometimes, in this navigating one political position versus another political position, it loses sight of those that you're really here to help. Well, as a former teacher, I see the talent that is there. I have so many of my former students are engineers or doctors or farmers and construction workers and working on oil rigs and so on, where they really need a certain skill set, and they're interested in helping out their communities and their families. So that to me is the positive, and I think people having to do research and understanding that just the things that you see on Facebook or Twitter or the news even needs to be thought of very analytically, and if people do that, and if they question and want to look for other voices in things that concern them, I think that is a way to navigate through sometimes the little traps that have been set for them when it comes to whether it be politics or life in general. When I was 16 years old, I actually had just started university, and so I was there with an opportunity to learn a lot of things, and I started off in computing science and pure mathematics. I realized at that time that I had other interests. So I had already bought a farm, and so I'd wanted to farm, and also I started off typing with two fingers, Now we do it with two thumbs, but at that time it was. I really found it difficult when you had 500 or 600 cards that you had to type in to put into a computer. And I think the first thing I would have said to myself, spend a little bit more time learning how to type. So that would have been the first part. It would probably made that easier. But sitting in front of a machine was not something that I really thought I wanted to continue doing, and that's why I chose to go into teaching. And plus, I could be close to where I farmed and continue with that love that I had, the love of the land. You know, so learning things, and of course, now that I'm much older, I think of all of the experiences that I've had, not just here in Parliament, where some amazing things take place and opportunities, but you know, in the rest of my life, and think, well, you know, there's a lot of exciting things out there and things that you'd like to try. So just be open to new experiences. So.